A few years ago, so we do in fact know him, and he did such a good job here that they invited him to become the district governor, and he would like to address you all about the work that is going on. So, a nice round of applause, please. Come on.
Well, thank you very much indeed, and I think I better speak quickly before we start drilling again. I promised the President I'm going to give you the 1 hour speech today. No, seriously, it's a joy to be back with you. It is a number of years since I was here, but a lot of familiar faces, but also lovely to see some new faces as well. And a special welcome to our new Rotarians today. Welcome to the Rotary family. I'm very proud to be here, and maybe at the end we can have a photograph together under the sign or whatever for my scrapbook as well, because I am 2 months into my year as district governor, and I never thought it was really going to come around. Norman will remember the days that we were assistant governors together. It just seemed a good idea, having been president of my club, to take on a bit more responsibility. Little did I imagine that a couple of years later, here I am in charge of 58 clubs in the district. And we also have, as you probably know, 3 satellite clubs, and I'll talk about that again in a minute. So at the moment, District 1240, we have about 1,550 Rotarians. My challenge this year is to end up with more people at the end of my year than I started with. A challenge which has gone out to all the district governors. And I have to say I was very lucky, because within the first week of me taking on the role, I was able to re-charter the Rotary Club of Clacton Jubilee. So I actually got 20 new members within a week. So I was off to a flying start, and hopefully as the year progresses, new members like yourselves and in all the other clubs taking on new blood, we'll end up with more people than we started with. But I have to tell you that Rotary is still facing a huge challenge of membership, within the UK in particular. Compared to 5 years ago, our membership numbers are 10% down and dropping. If I tell you that the average age of a Rotarian in the RIBI, the average age is 74. That is well out of line with the rest of the world. In America, Japan, India, whatever, most Rotarians are in their 40s and 50s, so we are substantially ahead of the rest of the world. And of course, as you well appreciate, that in another 10 or 15 years' time, we're all going to be so gaga, we're not going to be able to put on any events at all unless we bring in some new, younger blood. And that puts us at a real disadvantage in terms of our membership figures. So one of the things that we're planning to do, obviously, is to recruit new people. As I say, delighted that you've made a good start here already this year. Satellite clubs are a way of involving people in Rotary who don't want to conform to a traditional weekly meeting and meal, but who want to do good work in their community. So they're affiliated to the parent club, and yet they get together on a very informal basis, but then support the club at the events it puts on. And this, of course, can attract younger people who are at work who perhaps can't make the time commitment to come to a regular meeting. At the moment, we have 3 clubs up and running in the district within the last few months. They're in the pipeline. There are another 15 clubs, including hopefully yours here, that has faltered a little bit, but hopefully we can get that back on track. And if even 10 of those come on board throughout this year, the chances are we'll end up with 150 more Rotarians at the end of the year than we started with. So that is the challenge for every club, to find new members, to revitalise itself, and then hopefully increase our membership going forward. My second challenge, and we've touched on this a little bit already with some things that have been said today, is to increase our humanitarian aid around the world. The disasters that have already hit the floods in Bangladesh and Nepal you talked about, and I'm delighted that you've agreed to provide a shelter box or whatever. I'm always disappointed when the TV crews get to these disaster areas. All you ever see is Red Cross, UNICEF, everything else. Very little mention of Rotary with our shelter boxes and boxes. And in fact, very often we are the first people on the ground to help them. And somehow we need to change that perception of the public of the work that we're doing. But any help that that we can give now is going to be hugely appreciated by the people who are suffering. On the other side of the world, of course, you've been following the news stories about the hurricanes that are decimating the Caribbean at the moment, and I suspect there'll be a call from help there because they're not over the worst of that yet either. America's got enough money to help sort out Texas and whatever, but the poorer islands of the Caribbean will probably need some help in terms of rebuilding whatever, and so I suspect there might well be another appeal coming from them in the coming days. We've touched on your jam jars, which I'm delighted to see that you're filling up. The deadline for returning those, if you like, is the end of June of next year. So if you haven't started on your jams, and you don't like green gage, because all we ever got in our club was green gage, we never got any plum. Have you got some plum?
No, we like the green gauge.
All right, well, all ours were green gauge. But as I say, if you haven't started, then chuck it out and start filling your pots. In terms of the End Polio campaign, as you probably heard, this year, we're now into September, we've only had 9 cases reported in 2017, which is a huge improvement obviously on before. It's still 9 too many, and as you know, we have to go for 3 full years without any more cases before we can say that we've actually eradicated polio. So it still remains a massive priority for Rotary. We started this campaign 30 years ago. Other people have jumped on the bandwagon, and we get a lot of financial help, obviously, from Bill and Melinda Gates' foundation in America. And you probably heard a couple of weeks ago, the government has just pledged £100 million to help eradicate polio. I was slightly disappointed at the press release that went out, gave very little mention of Rotary, and there was a missed opportunity, I think, from Rotary's side to actually say the work we're doing, but we're doing some rearguard action to change that. So please, yes, keep going with raising money for End Polio. World Polio Day is the 24th of October, and I'm encouraging every club in district in the week, it doesn't matter what day of the week you meet, to do something in that week to just put a little bit of extra money into the End Polio pot. So whether or not you have a frugal meal that week and put the difference between what you normally pay and what you actually pay into a pot, or you hold a small event, a quiz night, or whatever it might be, just to raise a little bit of extra money on World Polio Day. So I'd say that's the 24th of October. The third strand of my challenge to District Governor and to all the clubs is still to raise Rotary's profile within the community. You have a fantastic webpage, you do a lot of work with neighbouring clubs, which is absolutely great, but I was staggered to hear a few weeks ago that Rotary had conducted a survey within the UK of the general public to see what their perception of Rotary was all about. And the staggering news to me was that only 3 people in 10 had even heard of Rotary, let alone could say the work that we do. So we might think that everyone in this room thinks, yes, Rotary is well known in Hornchurch and whatever. There is a huge tranche of the population out there who have no idea of what Rotary does. And so our biggest challenge is to tell people what Rotary stands for and the work that you are actually doing in your communities. And a question that I pose to clubs as I go around is, I suspect that you would all have a pretty good idea about how much money your club raised during last year for good causes. If I asked you if you knew how much Romford raised or how much Havery raised, you probably would have no idea. And similarly, they would have no idea about how much you've raised. And what a missed opportunity that is to tell the world of what good work Rotary does in the community. The reality is, if I added up all the money that we raised in 1240 last year, it would come to nearly £1 million. And yet, do we tell the public that we've raised £1 million and what that money's gone towards? No, we don't. We're very shy and quiet about blowing our own trumpet, and that has to change if we're going to survive and be successful in the future. So one of the ways that we can get that message out more effectively is by entering onto what we call Rotary Club Central, which is the database for Rotary, how much money your club has actually raised during the course of the last year, what your projects are for the coming year, and how much effort, or either man hours or woman hours if you like, you're putting into that. So we can then build a picture to say, I can go out and say, did you know that in District 1240 we are going to raise X amount of money in the coming year, these are the projects we're supporting, and I can go to the press and maybe radio and everything else to say what a success story there is. But if everybody just keeps their own little candle going in their own area and doesn't share that, we're never going to get the message across that we're doing such good work. So, to help us do that, And I know that when you hold events with local clubs like your fair and everything else, I want you to make sure that every picture that is taken has Rotary branding in the background. Because we have a wealth of pull-up signs, banners, everything, all free of charge for you to borrow within the district. But I want you to make sure that every photograph that has President in it doing something, or you doing an event, that the word Rotary appears. So often you see pictures and there's no mention of the fact that it's a Rotary event. And so we're missing a golden opportunity to get into people's subconscious that it's
I can
Rotary doing this great
superimpose that
work.
on all the photos.
So, in terms of a challenge to you, please continue the great work you're doing. I'm delighted that you're actually joining forces with local clubs, because poor old Romford are struggling, as you know, with membership. They're down to almost single figures at the moment. And so they're struggling to put on events in their own right, but then at least they can join forces with you and it has a bit more effect. I have to say that I've been to both Romford and Havering this week. They're both very miffed about you winning the indoor club. Because they reckon you had a ringer in your team. So they're up for the challenge to get it back next year anyway. So but well done on that anyway. While I'm on my feet, can I give a plug for a couple of events that are happening this side of Christmas? Georgia will know this very well. Both Inner Wheel and Rotary are joining forces to hold a seasonal concert in Chelmsford Cathedral on Tuesday the 28th of November. We're going to feature the young musicians, the Youth Speaks winners. It'll be a seasonal concert with refreshments and things at half-time. Tickets are available as of now, and if anyone wants to buy one today, I think I can give some to George to sell. But you can, if I leave the flyer with you, you can ring up and book them online and have them sent to you. They're only £8 each. It's all in a good cause. The money's being shared between charities, between Inner Wheel and Rotary. On the 22nd of October, the Southend clubs are getting together to put on a big band show down at the Palace Theatre down in Southend with an ex-young musician winner called Alex, I've never pronounced his name properly,
Alexander
Mendon at his orchestra. So Sunday the 22nd of October at the Palace Theatre, all the money from that is going to end polio, so that's a good cause as well. Closer to home, my own club at Billericay Mayflower, we're putting on its usual Christmas market down the High Street in Billericay. And if any of you have not been there, it is the most extraordinary event we put on. We close the High Street on a Sunday for the whole day, and we put on 2 stages of live entertainment, Santa Grotto for the kids. We have 250 continental food stalls, loads of entertainment, loads of things going on both in the church and the High Street. So it's a free day, so come along and support us on the 3rd of December, if you will. Finally, it really remains for me to say, whatever you do in your year, I want you to enjoy your Rotary. It's no good just becoming a member of a club and then not enjoying it. I want you to really enjoy your fellowship and your time together. And what the work you do is great, and I want you to have a fantastically successful year. My team is here to help you if you get stuck with anything in terms of either fundraising or grants, or you need any help with on banners, publicity, or whatever. But I wish you every success in everything you do. And thank you for your hospitality today. It's been lovely to come and see you, and delighted that your numbers are swelling, which is great. So thank you for your attention. Lovely to see you, and good luck with everything you do this year. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gowan is prepared to answer your questions, so from a big Q and start with G.
One of the things that you said earlier on, I think, made a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense to the plonkers sitting on this table. Okay. What you actually said was that the concept of publicising the total effect that we have in the community.
Yes.
This £1 million, is that?
Yep.
I think that's an excellent idea. As a treasurer of this club, I know it's not difficult for us to do this, but it has to be structured.
Yeah.
From your side,
Yes.
it has to be structured. And if you don't mind my saying so, what I think needs to happen is your side has to send out a survey, or a written survey which all the clubs respond to.
Right.
6 months, 12 months, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that should be done. I think that really to get into the community is excellent with that type of publicity.
Yeah.
Rotary making £1 million, big numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add to that obviously all the districts, and there are 25 districts within the UK, are all doing their best to raise money and do good causes. But we're not very good at joining all the rest of the country, let alone just District 1240. And our new RIBI president, Dennis Spiller, is actually appearing on BBC television in the next couple of weeks, and I'll circulate the date when I actually know the time it's going out. And he's actually going to be talking about the work the Rotary does, how much money we raise, and that for the first time we're actually going to get some proper coverage as to what's going on. But at a local level, can I just ask you that when you do your fair or your walk or your quiz or whatever it is, you produce an A-frame poster, and in there you get you've got a printer, I'm sure, a tame printer somewhere within the club or a friend of. Why don't you list the projects that you have supported in your area and how much money you've given them? And then as the public arrive at your events, they say, oh God, look, they've raised so much for St Francis Hospice, or they've done this or done that. Because people pick up on actual facts and figures. And it's a very simple way of getting the message across at local level. But I take your point that we need to do it better across the district, and that's one of the things I should be working on in the coming months and ahead. At the moment, obviously, I'm busy gallivanting around the district, trying to get round everybody. But the one thing I didn't mention is, of course, that I had the opportunity to go to San Diego back in January for my training, as it were, to become a district governor. And the president of Rotary International is a lovely man called Ian Risley from Australia. Every year we have a theme, and this year's theme is making a difference, both in the lives of people at home and around the world. And Rotary can really make a difference to people's lives. So just keep that simple message in your brain, that you are all here as people of action to make a difference around the world. Okay, anything else from anybody?
Any other questions? Questions?
Stun them into silence. Okay.
Is there anything more? Or you're quite...
Well, I mean, I don't know how we're doing for time. Some people have got to get back or whatever. I mean, the reality is that in the work that I do around the district, I'm always impressed by the fact that every club does things in its own particular way. It would be terribly boring if every club worked in exactly the same way. But what I find fascinating as I'm going around is that every club has its own particular nuances, and they have their special ways of being effective. And I only wish that perhaps we could share some of that best practice between clubs, rather than everyone just doing their own thing in their own particular way. So one of the other things that I'm going to be working on this year is to try and share some of that good practice between clubs. I know some of you are coming to conference in a couple of weeks' time, which I'm holding down in Winchester. We have a number of speakers there from different areas of the world, different sort of charities and different sides of the world, which again will be an opportunity to share best practice of how best to do things together. But the reality is that every club does it in its own way, and I'm not here to tell you whether that's right or wrong. As long as you enjoy doing what you're doing and you raise some money, then that's absolutely fine by me. I'm not here to say that you're doing this wrong, you're doing that right. I want clubs to operate in their own way that they feel comfortable with. But I do want you to be receptive to new ideas from outside, so that maybe you can make your life easier and help you raise money more effectively. Okay?
I would like to say a few words about relationships with you. Yeah, very interesting.
Okay. One of the charities I'm supporting in my year is an international charity called Mercy Ships. Some of you might have heard of them. This is a floating hospital. It's a converted ferry, in fact, that's now become a floating hospital. At the moment it's stationed in Cameroon in North Africa. The 400 crew on board are all volunteers from around the world, from the surgeons to the cleaners to the catering staff and whatever. They all give up their time for free, and in the time they're going to be in Cameroon, they will probably perform something in the region of 5,500 surgical operations free of charge to people who desperately need help, whether it be for cataract operations, whether it's for hair, lips, club foot, growths, goiters, things like that. All that makes a huge difference to those people who go back into their communities as effective working people, having been, if you like, outcasts because of their particular illness or deformity. I'm supporting Mercy Ships because I think A, they do a fantastic work, but B, I just think it is such an amazing opportunity to make a difference in the poorest countries in the world. And I was really pleased that a few weeks ago, when the ship was in dry dock before it sailed to Cameroon, I was able to take a party of 8 Rotarians from our district to go on board the ship to have a look around the hospital facilities and all the rest of the operating areas as guests of Mercy Ships. And so in return, I've invited them to come and talk at a conference in a couple of weeks' time, and I hope we'll be able to support them in the future with some of their projects. It is the most fantastic charity. There was actually a National Geographic documentary about them on TV a few weeks ago, which really just highlighted the fantastic work they do. But there are a number of other charities that I'm supporting throughout the year, including Build Aid, who are also very active in Africa, building sanitary and toilet facilities in the poorest areas, and a whole host of local causes as well within the Essex area, which you'll hear about. And for those of you that can't come to the conference, there'll be articles in the 1240 News, and there'll be articles on the district website and whatever to keep you in touch with what's going on. But yes, thank you for reminding me that. I can heartily recommend Mercy Ships as a charity. Thank you very much indeed, anyway.
No more questions? Mr. Club, first of all, on behalf of the club, I would like to appreciate and thank you for the work that you are doing for District 1240, for Rotary and Rotary International, because we are all members of Rotary International. We've heard your challenges that you have, and some of the challenges we are trying to overcome. I can assure you that all the challenges that you have mentioned, we'll try our best to see how we can participate in those challenges. And as you heard, we have modern mechanisms of networking and Facebook, which Colin has taken by himself, so we are really appreciative to Colin. And let's hope that Rotary lives forever.
Absolutely.
So fellows, can you please give a warm appreciation to our